I've been living with a panic disorder for the last 20 years, and Celeste was one of the first video games that highlighted that part of me, that made me feel seen, and eventually led to me embracing that part of me and leading me down the road of getting help for that part of me, of being open about it. And yeah, without Celeste, I wouldn't have gone into therapy.
I've spent a lot of my adult life working my way out of depression and grappling with avoidant personality disorder. Striving to regulate my thoughts and feelings in a healthy way has often felt really overwhelming and exhausting. Games like farming sims and Zelda games have been a vital way to rest and find peace when I had a hard time doing anything else. I don't know how I would have survived without them, and I'm so thankful I live in a world where these games exist.
Persona 3 gave my depressed teenage ass a world to dive into and learn from. I escaped one day at a time out of my oppressively glum brain into an environment where friends make you stronger one shared meal at a time. This beautiful game is one of many reasons why I'm still here today.
A game that has mentally supported me ever since I was little was Tetris for the Game Boy. Whenever I felt down or sad or anything, grabbing my Game Boy and having a few rounds of Tetris was a sure way to cheer me up. It also has a strong connection to my dad, who sadly passed away 2.5 years ago. In essence, it was his game. He always had the time to play a few games. And for me, processing what has happened, dealing with the grief about losing him, it was easier when playing Tetris on his Game Boy with his copy of the game.
Spiritfarer helped me navigate grief through the lens of other people's stories, learning to love for them and help them even if I didn't originally vibe with their characteristics. It showed me I was capable of even more empathy than I thought and reminded me that the time I did have with my lost loved ones was worth the heartbreak of their passing, all while being a resource management game. Incredible game.
So it's March 2020 and the world has stopped, and I don't know what I'm doing with myself. My mental health's taken a dip, and then Animal Crossing New Horizons comes along. I pick up the game, pick up my Switch again, and all of a sudden, all those uncertain times I'm not really thinking about, because I have made new friends, I've met new communities, and I've made a hobby that is potentially going to become my career and has done. I will always be thankful for that game, for getting me out of what could have been a really uncertain and dark time.
I play a lot of retro games because my childhood was robbed from me. I had a very traumatic youth. I had a very hard time making friends as a kid, and I had no siblings to hang out with. And my parents were emotionally unavailable, so to speak. So I grew up alone, and video games was the only thing that I had in this storm of anxiety and depression that was a part of my everyday life. And by playing retro games, I gave myself a second chance of having a fun childhood.
I've suffered with depression since I was a teenager, and at times when I was at my lowest, it is no exaggeration to say that video games helped. Not only did playing them give me escapism, but exciting new releases gave me something to look forward to. And now I share my love of games with people for a living. I help to create new memories with my audience, and maybe, just maybe, I can be a part of their escapism and give them something to look forward to.
Our life, beginnings and always, found its way to me at a time where I was incredibly lonely. The beautiful and nuanced story filled my heart. It gave me the opportunity to live through a childhood that I have never had, an openly gay one, surrounded by acceptance, friends and love. It's often sweet, sometimes painful, always earnest, and an unapologetic celebration of your life and mine. Ours, you could even say.
In my late teens and early 20s, I was heavy into FPS games. Think Counter-Strike, Unreal Tournament, Quake 3, that kind of stuff. The toxicity that I've encountered in these games, from you're too bad at it up to you're cheating, made me retract from games in the online world, as I wasn't well enough equipped to deal with that kind of toxicity. Only after giving up anything that is competitive PvP and finding new community in collaborative games, I really found myself again.
I've always been a passionate person, and I used to be highly skilled at competitive shooters. I experienced toxicity, mocking of my enthusiasm, and some truly horrid comments from enough people that I eventually just stopped playing any games online with or against strangers. That fear and distrust of strangers has manifested in ways outside of that too. I struggle to trust anybody online, which impacts me in this job quite substantially, but also in life too.
When I was a young woman on the cusp of adulthood, I encountered a lot of objectification and dismissal of women in games and in online communities. In a vulnerable time, it made me feel really small and alone, and like what I had to offer to the world was always going to be dismissed and minimized to something surface level. I saw frequent disparagings of feminism, negative generalizations about women, and it gave me an incredibly cynical and hopeless view on the world and my place in it at a time when I desperately needed the opposite.